I had Drex. I had a James Harden.
Definitely got Clyde Drexler above James Harden.
Clyde Drexler's better than James Harden? Okay.
Yep. I had Drex at the 2-guard spot.
Well, wouldn't you say, wouldn't you say that Clyde Drexler's best asset was his scoring? I mean, he was a good defender, but it was his scoring versatility that made him great in the 90s and the 80s. And he's not in the same ballpark as James Harden to score.
So
or playmaker.
He got to the finals twice though.
So when you talk about good defenders, well, he's actually a better defender than that. He was the only player in NBA history to retire in the top 10 in steals and not make the All-League defensive team one time. That's never happened. Not only that, the Portland Trailblazers invented the hustle board. So he was the epitome of that. So when you're talking about Clyde Drexler as a scorer who was very right-hand dominant, Drex would definitely use his left hand, but he would use his left hand to get back to the right hand. But Drex was definitely multifaceted. Drex could play the one. I don't know if you guys remember this, but the first year Drex made the All-Star game, he made the All-Star game at the lead guard spot. He didn't make it at the 2 or at the small forward. He made it at the lead guard spot. So in terms of a transition player, when you talk about being a scorer, sure, the game is a lot more wide open. And the fact that James Harden throws the ball between his legs a bunch of different times, I think James Harden there was a number where James Harden dribbled the ball over 600 times. I mean, that doesn't wow me. That doesn't wow me more than the results. And when I think about what Drex did on both sides of the basketball, when talking about James Harden as an offensive player, I don't think the gap is that wide between James. I don't think the gap is that wide between James Harden.
Chill. Just to be clear, the 4-year run for James Harden, basically on a per 75, he was almost averaging 31 and 12 on like a elite shooting.
Right.
On like he was shooting Steph Curry 3-point volume on step backs and hitting them at like a 38% clip. There was nobody ever on the perimeter that was scoring that efficiently ever for that long on the perimeter.
Right. And his ability to distribute. I won't argue that. No, I won't argue that. But I think we're talking about a different game. I think we're talking about Drex playing in the game in the big man era where the game was ran around the big man. And we're still talking about a dude who still was averaging in that 4 year. I think Drex averaged 24, 25 a game. Now, if we bring that up to what's going on today, right? If we talk about that today, I mean, that 24 could very well be 30 a game today, how wide open the game is, how fast the game is today. But we're not talking about today. We're talking about back then, right? We're talking about back then. We're talking about how good Drex is as a transition player. We're talking about how good Drex is as a mid-range shooter. Drex could knock the long ball down.
He wasn't a better mid-range shooter or transition player than James Harden, though.
He definitely was a better transition player than James Harden.
Transition is not just scoring. Transition
no, it isn't. Scoring. No, it isn't.
So, just even James Harden's creation ability alone.
No, you're not going to sell me that one. No,
I'm not going to sell you that. So James Harden in transition was either getting a layup, a foul, or a bucket at the rim, or a 3-pointer at his apex on every possession in transition.
So take the 3-point out because the 3-pointer wasn't as prevalent. So and I want you to
corner shot.
And I can appreciate that. But if you want to do that, so Drex at his apex was at the rim, getting fouled, getting a layup, getting a dunk, or getting an and one. That was Drex. That's what he was doing in a big man league. In transition,
I think he was great. He was a 10-time All-Star for a reason.
Right. So what I mean when I say when I'm talking about when I talk about Clyde Drexler, I'm talking about offensively. I don't think the gap is that wide. I do think there's a gap between him and James Harden. I don't think it's that wide, but I think that the gap on defense is a lot wider. And I think that's
let me ask you this. Let me see how what you would think about this. Was Drexler a better scorer than Jerry West?
No.
Not even close.
I don't think
not even close. So my whole thing is James Harden is one of the 6 or 7 best offensive players ever, depending on how you value that. I don't think Drexler is anywhere near those conversations. Depends on who you are, 6 or 7 or 8, top 8, whatever, wherever you want to put him, however you register that. My issue is I think Drexler is a very good player, but he was never in those talks like all-time great offensive engines of all time. I think he's a great scorer. He was a good defender, but I think, and the reason why, and I think so, if Jordan is Kobe and then it's Wade or Jerry West and then Harden, I just don't think there's been really a lot of basketball discussions about Drexler or Wilkins, for that matter, even being in the same conversation at all time as James Harden. I think both of those players are a step below. I think Drexler's in front of Dominique Wilkins, but I think they're about in the same tier, to be honest with you. Dominique was incredible.
Into account what the game, are we taking into account what the game is and what the game was?
Yes, I think but I'm not.
That's why MJ's at 1.
And I think
no one discounting that. Kobe played in the 90s too, and I got him at 2.
But Drex played in the 80s too.
No,
So
but
Jordan-
listen, but I'm saying, but Jordan was also in the 80s, and he's the prohibited number one. Not even
Right.
close. There's no one close to him. But
It's the player choice way. Yeah, them boys don't get it started. The player choice way. Yeah, the player choice way. Come and switch lanes into the player choice way.